Hello, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Owl Podcast. For this podcast, we're going to change things up a little bit, and we're going to have a panel of well-known ladies on. Sue, Megan, and Carrie are going to talk all about what they think the next generation of schedulers should look like and what skills they should have. Stay tuned.
Hello, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Owl Podcast. Today, we're going to mix it up a little bit, and we're going to have a panel instead of just one person. We have Sue, Carrie, and Megan on the line with us. And today, we're going to talk about what does the next generation of schedulers look like? What do they need to know? Where are they coming from? Anything that might come to our mind as we are looking into the future. So I'm going to start off with introducing or letting Sue introduce herself. So let me hand it over to Sue.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hey, Sue. Thanks for
listeners.
joining.
Thank you. Appreciate this this opportunity. And again, you gave away my name, so I'll go ahead and continue that. My name is Sue Sapotniksai. I work for Satcom Direct as a sales engineer. So what I do pretty much on a daily basis is try to find a really great software solution for flight departments. As we know, all flight departments have all these different unique requirements, requests, things like that. So what I try to do is kind of bridge the gap between our engineering teams and also the flight departments. And so for me, that has really created a lot of interest in learning all of these different all of these different nuances from the flight departments, and allows me to bring better solutions to help our company, find solutions for our customers as well as prospective customers. So yeah, so I've actually been in aviation for about over 15 years, and I kind of didn't really know that there was this part of the aviation industry at all, BizAv. So I got into it a long time ago, and what keeps me in it is the people in this industry. They are very giving and very passionate, and that's what just really keeps me going here. So thank you.
It's true, Sue. And Sue, you and I have known each other for I think it's been almost 15 years.
I know,
we go
it's
back.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, you meet some long-term friends in this industry. So awesome. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
So let me hand it over to Carrie. Carrie works for Harley Davidson. And Carrie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Lindsay. I am Carrie Wicht, and I am the business travel flight coordinator for Harley Davidson Motor Company. I'm going on 6 years now with Harley. We are a small department. We have a Challenger 300. There's a total of 6 of us on our team. Basically, I am the right-hand gal to the director, so I'm helping him out with all of his projects and keeping the team afloat. So I've been in aviation for over 20 years now. I started in high school. Right out of high school, I started doing line services at my local airport. Started working with the flight school and the charter department there. Left that and went to a 135 operator. And now I've been with Harley. So happy to be here and share some information.
Awesome. Thank you for coming, Carrie. It sounds like your background has come from all sorts of different sections of aviation.
Yeah.
You mentioned flight training and FBO and charter, and now flight department, Part 91, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So our next panelist is Megan Knox, and she is with Liberty Global. So let me pass it over to Megan, and she can introduce herself.
Thanks, Lindsay. As you mentioned, I'm Megan Knox. I'm a Part 91 scheduler with Liberty Global out of Centennial, Colorado. And my story is similar to Carrie. I started in aviation to begin with, but my story starts way back in high school. I told my parents I wanted to be a pilot. And my dad thought that was a little bit of a crazy dream since I hadn't had much exposure to aviation in my life. So he went ahead and sent me to summer camp and said, if you enjoy this summer camp, then we'll consider paying for, a degree in aviation for you. And I went to summer camp and fly a Mooney, and it was the best experience I've ever had in my whole life. And I came home and said, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be a pilot. So I went and got a 4-year bachelor's degree in aviation. And unfortunately, at the time I was entering the aviation world, lots of pilots were being furloughed. It was a really tough time in the industry. And I went to a career fair and met my first boss, who offered me an interview as a scheduler, which I didn't have a lot of knowledge about at the time, but I took a chance on it and decided I would do it for a few years to see how it went. And that was almost 20 years ago. And I've been scheduling ever since. My role for about 3 years, and it has expanded beyond just scheduling now. Now I do tax, legal, accounting, reporting. It's kind of the whole gamut, if you will, of the operations, kind of behind the scenes in the flight department.
That's awesome. I'm kind of curious. So you wanted to be a pilot. When you started down that journey, did you know that there was much going on like in the general aviation side, or was it really just commercial that you were thinking of?
So when I first started down the path, I was really only aware of commercial operations. However, the flight school that I went to did actually have quite a bit of touch with the corporate side. And a lot of my colleagues and friends from my college days have become corporate pilots themselves or involved in corporate flight departments. So we still all stay in close contact, and that's kind of been a unique part of my journey.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Very cool. All right. Well, now we've heard kind of where all of us came from. Now we're going to talk about where we think this industry is heading. And I think the first thing we're going to talk about is remote work, because of course with the pandemic, that has changed, I think, probably 100% of the flight departments and the way they do their work. And so I'm just kind of curious if each of us could maybe share how it's changed in our own departments. Carrie, maybe you could, I know you have a kind of a hybrid model, I believe. What have you guys, how have you adjusted your schedule?
Sure. So once COVID hit the US, Harley did go to remote work. So I was work from home. We are slowly transitioning back to the hangar. I am going in once per week just for some, to pick up mail, some supplies, invoicing, filing and stuff like that. But otherwise, I'm pretty much work from home. I'm the only scheduler for Harley, so I am pretty much on call 24/7. I don't really have a whole lot of scheduled off time. So I'm able to work wherever. I mean, I mentioned the other day that I, worked a trip when I was sitting in the dentist chair. So
Wow.
you have the tools and stuff. I mean, you just pick it up and do it. So, but Harley is thinking going forward that they're going to be more flexible with the work environment and allowing people to work from home or wherever they're most comfortable.
That's good. That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that one topic of technology. We're going to talk about that later on today, but that's a big topic as well. If you have the right tools and the technology to do it, you can do it almost from anywhere. So, Megan, how about you? How have you guys adjusted to the whole pandemic and work at home?
So yeah, I've been home for a year. As of a year ago, I plan to take a vacation and come back to the office really since. We have office space. Our headquarters is downtown Denver, and the whole environment down there has changed as well due to restrictions within our state and COVID. At one point, we were down to only 25% of the office was allowed to go into the office. Since then, it's recovered some, but there's also been a shift in the attitude downtown that maybe people don't need to be in an office all the time. Out at the hangar, I have been in a handful of times to help see passengers off, check passports. Been very regular part of our operation. But I have only showed up on days when there's been a big trip or, they've needed additional support at the hangar. Other than that, I've been able to do everything I otherwise would do from home. So that's been really awesome that I've had the support from management to go ahead and just make that transition.
That's awesome. And Megan, do you usually work at the hangar, or would you have been at the office downtown?
So my office is actually at the hangar. However,
Okay.
I would go downtown for meetings as well. And all of that's pretty much moved virtual at this point.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. Stu, how about you with SATCOM? How are you guys doing it?
There's the mute button or unmute. So I'm going to take this actually from more of a general observation, just because in my, what I currently do for SATCOM Direct, I speak to a lot of flight departments, and I just wanted to kind of share share some of that feedback, and also just coming fresh off the virtual flight operations conference that NBAA just had. There was a lot of conversation in the chat panel in regards to remote work, and how due to the pandemic, we had to shift to working from home. And I think that has always been a challenge in flight departments over the years. Of, you need to be in the office, you need to be in the hangar to be able to do your job per se, right? But what ended up happening with last year was, everybody had to shift to work from home, and missions were still completed, working remotely. And I think that now flight departments and organizations just in general are embracing the work from home, and seeing that the flexibility is allowing the employees in a general scale to be kind of happier employees, which always equates to a happier work force, and happier and a better bottom line, right? And so we start seeing a lot of this information flow through actual data that is coming out of the news, like different companies are shifting more to this remote work or the hybrid model, because they're seeing such success with it.
I think it's awesome. I don't know about you guys, but I remember trying to do some work at home, and the department I worked for just could not, they just really struggled with it. And I could not get it implemented full time. And I think there's a lot of people who were in that same boat. They just, perhaps there was somebody in the office that really wanted to have and see a butt in the seat. And I think that this pandemic has been maybe not great, but at the same time, for the remote work option, it's been a really big eye-opening, I guess, endeavor for some of these companies, because you really can get all of this work done from home. And that kind of brings me to the next topic, which is, yes, you can do all of this work at home, but sometimes it requires you to be a little bit more resourceful. I would argue that there's, things that have to be done a little bit differently. And you do have to be resourceful to figure out how to get those things finished. And Megan, let's start with you this time. What type of resourcefulness are you seeing needed out there?
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, I think resourcefulness is definitely the thing that's going to get us all through this remote work and make us come out the other side that much stronger. So one of the things that I found incredibly helpful during this time is that I sit on the NBAA Scheduled Dispatchers Committee, and that has provided a great panel of people that I can go to with any sort of questions, or how are you making this work? Anyone have any ideas that maybe our flight department hasn't yet thought of, and be able to bring those kind of back to my own group, because it's a great diverse panel of lots of different ways of doing things. So that's been fantastic. Over the past year, I also worked on my CAM certification, and we had a study group of during that time that I was able to kind of lean on and get some ideas about, what people were and weren't doing that was working well for them. So both Carrie and Sue run in both of those circles for me. So that's been helpful. And then on top of that, I think, people that I've met at past conferences or past networking events, even though I don't get to see them in person anymore. And in the past, those were relationships that, I would catch up on once a year or once a quarter, however often it was that we, physically and geographically cross paths. I've learned to develop those relationships into being more via email and phone calls and things like that, and make sure that we're touching base regularly. And they've been just invaluable friendships to be able to advance my own career and then advance those of the people around me, making sure that our flight department is keeping up with the times.
Oh, that's a great point. The networking piece of it is a huge piece of being resourceful, reaching out to the right people and staying connected with them. In fact, Sue, I wanted to ask you, when you were talking before, you talked about the virtual flight ops conference that just happened. I thought that the networking piece of it, like the people that were willing to put information and chat back and forth in the chat message, was actually really good this time. I found a little bit harder at the main NBAA one, but this one was a lot better. Did you see that as well?
I did, and I've kind of been just chatting with Megan over the course of the end of the conference yesterday, and just how I thought it was probably one of the best conferences that I've been to, and generally for me being on the vendor side, I don't get a chance to really be able to sit down and actually listen to the sessions and things like that. So and also working and also being on the schedulers and dispatchers committee and being a vendor, it's like triple the work, and so you don't get a chance to really basically absorb all of that work that you put into all of these different sessions that you've put together, right? Because I'm on the education subcommittee that puts all those classes together for S&D. So I would say that it was nice to be able to jump in and out of sessions. I mean, there were sessions that sometimes when you're putting 4 sessions together in one block, it's hard to figure out which one you want to go to, right? And usually if you're on site, it's you pick one and you pick one, and then hopefully you'll catch some notes somewhere else for another session. Whereas this was really nice to be able to jump into a session and then jump into another session, jump in and out, and really be able to expose yourself to more classes.
I agree. And if I'm not mistaken, the recordings are available, right, for the next 30 days. So we get to go back and listen to them. I agree. I really like that, because I hated having to, pick which class I was going to go to.
Right. Sometimes they make it, sometimes we try to make it very hard with that lineup. But yeah, you have access to review or, review those sessions through March 25th. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it was a good change to the way it went. I think that Megan was talking about a really important thing as well, that I feel like we don't, and it was talking about the networking and the groups that are out there. I believe that Carrie, do I remember you saying that you tried to put together, or you have put together, a group before of S&D people? And if you did, what was that like?
Yeah, so me and another scheduler from across the border down in Illinois tried to start a Wisconsin-Illinois group. We went down a couple of different paths on how we could recruit schedulers and dispatchers to join our group. Didn't know if we needed to be like sponsored by NBAA or if this is something we could just run on our own. So we had to do some research on that end. But it, unfortunately, time just got away from us, and we kind of fell to the back burner. But most recently, there has been a group that has merged for Wisconsin, Illinois. So I do sit on that roundtable as well. But it's so beneficial to have the industry contacts and to be able to reach out to people. Even, NBAA airmail is such a great resource. If you have a question and you can't figure out the answer, or your team is puzzled, it's such an easy way just to pop on there and, send a quick email, and the responses you get are, fantastic. And sometimes you'll start a whole new conversation. So it's just important to network and look for those groups that are out there in your community. And, even just going to the local airport and seeing what kind of groups are out there that you can maybe participate in.
That's a great idea. Like there's women in aviation groups. There's I think they're called Wings, where they let kids take their first airplane ride for free. There are tons of opportunities out there that you can join and just get more involved. And just a quick plug for the S&D group. The NBAA S&D group has a Facebook page. There's also a couple other Facebook pages out there that talk about like international operations. And so if you have Facebook, that's a really great place as well to find resources and information. You can ask questions there as well. How about any other resources that anybody uses or suggests a lot?
Yeah, so Lindsay, let me go ahead.
One
Go ahead,
thought on
Megan.
that, Lindsay, is that it can feel kind of vulnerable to put yourself out there in some of these groups, but I found that the dividends that it pays back is well worth that risk. So I'm not usually one to put myself out on a forum, but especially in COVID times, it's been sort of a lifeline for me. So Sue, I think you had something to say as well.
Yeah, so just kind of talking about all this, the networking and the groups and trying to be resourceful, right, to our organizations, because I think we all feel this way, right, in our positions, whether we're in operations or just in a position where you reach so many different departments, right, on the corporate level, as well as your own flight department, is that like you're the hub, right? So everybody comes to you and asks you all these questions, and I mean, you're not going to know everything, right? But at least these networks and these resources like NBAA, airmail, and all of that, those are the people that you can tap for getting ideas, getting those answers back, and so that's a way that you can be resourceful to your organization. Is the wider your network is, the more opportunity, for you to be able to assist in any problems, situations, questions that arise, right? And so, so it doesn't mean everything, right? It just means that you'll be able to get back to someone, whether it means I've exhausted my resources and I don't have an answer, or I have an answer, and this is what I've gotten from several people, and it seems like a consensus of this is the response, so I think sometimes we mistake that resourcefulness with needing to have all of the answers, right? So I think just making sure that it's okay to ask for help, like the lifeline thing that you had mentioned, Megan, just find somebody.
One thought about that too, Sue, is that sometimes when my own network, for whatever reason, doesn't have the answers, don't be afraid to ask a supplier or a vendor that you work with. Like Sue, you being at SATCOM, sometimes we have issues and I don't know who else has had issues similar to ours, but my suppliers and my vendors have so many contacts that I can say, do you happen to know a flight department size or with a similar issue? Can you point me in the right direction to someone perhaps I've never met before? And I found that can be incredibly helpful, because once you find that match, you can solve problems so much faster and so much more efficiently.
Absolutely.
That's a really great point. And super great point. And I think that it kind of brings us to part of two things in our next topic, and it's leadership is what I was going to talk about next. And I think the next generation of schedulers is going to want to have more of a leadership position, and going back to knowing or having resources in your legal department, in your tax department, in all sorts of different departments helps you be a stronger leader, and will also help you. I think it's just the more skills you have, the more opportunity you have to stay with the current company that you're with long term. So if I could switch the conversation just a little bit over towards leadership, and what does leadership look like to you guys? Maybe Carrie, you had talked about scholarships. How does that help you?
So yeah, I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship from NBAA, the Jake Cartwright scholarship to pursue my CAM certification. And I, decided to go down the CAM path just because I felt like it was the next step in my career. I feel like, I have a director who does an amazing job. But he is very busy and he relies on me for a lot of stuff. And I felt that the CAM certification would help me support him better as well as our team. So I would for sure say that the scholarships, can help you achieve your goals, from a financial standpoint. The scholarships are, there's, gosh, I don't know how many NBAA has available, but they're just wonderful. I mean, I've received 2 of them since I've been with Harley. So, and I know Megan is on the scholarship committee for NBAA. So maybe you want to.
Yeah.
For the past 2 years, I've been the chair of the scholarship committee for schedules and dispatchers. And it's been awesome to be able to help propel and move forward a lot of people's careers. We have training scholarships and monetary scholarships. And prior to joining the committee, I was a scholarship recipient myself from NBAA. And it allowed me to attend a conference at a time in my career when I didn't have much forward movement. So that really helped keep my network alive for me at a time when I was trying to figure out my next move. So as far as the training and the monetary scholarships, usually they open for our committee towards the mid to end of summer. And then they're usually open until just before base would happen in a normal calendar year. And I think this past year we had close to 15 recipients. And they vary all across the board, everything from getting a dispatch scholarship to preparing for the CAM exam to a monetary award of your choice. Perhaps there's something you've been really wanting to brush up on skill set wise, or to attend a conference. So that's been really fantastic. I highly encourage everyone to apply. I was at a point in my career where I felt like I had enough experience behind me that why would I be an eligible scholarship recipient? Surely there's people out there who are just starting out that would need it more. But the scholarships that NBAA offers are truly for anyone at any point in their career, whether it be just looking to gain an additional certification to looking to get started in the industry. So don't sell yourself short, definitely apply. And like Carrie said, do what you can to broaden your resume in a way that feels meaningful.
I think that's a really good point too, because I have gotten actually a scholarship from NBAA as well, and it was many years ago, but I applied thinking, I should say I didn't apply for many years, and then I decided I would go ahead and do it because I figured there was probably many other people, way more qualified than I was. And then I applied and I received one, which was excellent. And it did help my career out a lot. So I'll second that. The scholarships are awesome, and you need to just go for it and apply.
So I actually I was going to add to that. So I'm glad you said that, Megan, in regards to the scholarships, about like not worrying about where you are in your career, because I think a lot of people, I know that this is something that definitely, coming from myself thinking, I have all these years in the industry, why would I get a scholarship over somebody that's just starting out, right? So it's kind of the purpose of the scholarship and things like that. So don't worry about like where you are in your career. The scholarships are for everyone. And I would say, there's a ton of those, right? Women in Aviation, NBAA, but also there are scholarships and internships within your companies. And so there's opportunities that your own company, puts out there, and don't be afraid to go and seek those out or ask those questions, because I know some organizations, they give you an X amount of dollars per year for continuing education. Not a lot of people know about that, and not a lot of people take advantage of that. They also have some companies have a lot of like seminars, 3-day seminars, 4-day seminars in regards to specific topics and things like that. So kind of growing, diversifying what diversifying all of your knowledge as well by taking advantage of those things. And so yeah, so it's yeah, definitely look, seek it, seek those resources, and to be able to find out what else you can go apply for, and just keep on expanding that knowledge.
It's a great point, Sue, because I think that I've met some schedulers over the years that, are, comfortable where they're at and or unsure of the next opportunity. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable and put yourself out there and go for those scholarships or opportunities within your own company. They're there for a reason, and everybody deserves to take advantage of them.
I've even heard of some companies who will give you the time. Like, let's say you're taking a longer certification, like your CAM. I don't know how it went for you, Megan. Maybe it's a little bit slower these days, but I was working on some extra classes, and my employer not only helped pay for them, but they also allowed me like in office work time to do some of the studying. I've seen that out there in more than one company. So I think sometimes people are like, well, what, man, I've got all this work to do, and there's no way I could fit in another class or learning something new. But if you talk to your employer, they might just do it for you, time-wise too. Okay. I wanted to talk about, I guess, the classes brings me to the diversification of talent. So if you were to look out there and you saw a class and maybe it has something to do with finance, and which is really maybe not in your wheelhouse, but it could be. And I guess I'd like to talk about looking outside of maybe what you're doing now, like Sue was talking about, and learning something completely new that might have a benefit to your job. I guess almost in a side way. Finance, I think, is a huge thing that a lot of us don't come in to the aviation industry knowing, but it's really important. I mean, it really is part of our daily aviation lives. Does anybody?
Hey, Lindsay, let me chime in on that one. So this is something, again, just kind of being, talking to a lot of flight departments. And this is one of the things, going back to the leadership aspect and being a leader of a department and things like that, like there's been a major shift over the years of, the flight departments have now become a real arm, right? Not that they weren't, but a real arm of, corporations. And so with that, you have to be a little bit, even though you have to be more budget minded, you have to have that financial savvy to be able to say, okay, how do we balance, we need to cut back certain things. So, having that financial aptitude and the all of that information, like you really need those different skill sets, and go look for those different classes to be able to help you in that role, right? So I know Megan has taken on that role, and I'm going to pick on her, and she's taken on that role, and we've had some chats on the finance side, and she's doing incredible things for her flight department in regards to that piece of it.
Thanks, Sue. I was going to say, yeah, Lindsay, you really, I think in the role of scheduler, it's so many more things these days than it was when I first started out in this role, as far as oftentimes we're the people that are in an admin type role, and someone's got to get the job done. And while the pilots are out on the road flying and the mechanics are turning wrenches, the easiest place to drop a new project is kind of on a scheduler. So I've gotten very involved in timeshare agreements and legal structure and importation of aircraft, accounting, purchase orders, all of that. I know Carrie supports her flight department doing a lot of similar tasks as well. And so having that business management understanding beyond just the flight operation has, I think, become a new standard hat that a lot of more schedulers are wearing these days than they used to. A lot of our accounting team downtown, our general counsel, will push things back on the flight department to help get our viewpoints, our perspective, and actually empower us to be a lot more involved than perhaps we would have been in, years past. So we really have a seat at the table downtown. Our VP gets involved in a lot more meetings, and we have a really visible presence within the company. Everyone knows we have corporate jets, and how we use them to benefit our stakeholders and shareholders and things like that is really important. And it's important that we have a good reputation throughout that process. And part of that is being sure that we have employees within the department that are able to really, speak knowledgeably about lots of more things than just the operation itself.
Very good point, definitely. And so that kind of makes me think about, wonder when we're hiring the next generation of schedulers, or maybe we're just hiring somebody under us, what is that going to look like? Like, perhaps we can pull somebody that has an accounting background or an accounting degree. Perhaps we don't need it to be in the aviation management section. Perhaps it could be in technology. I mean, technology is a huge thing. If we can harness somebody's superior knowledge on technology to maybe make processes in our flight department better, I think that'd be a place we could look as well. Does anybody have any experience, or has anybody hired from someplace other than aviation?
Lindsay, I'll speak on that. So I haven't hired anybody, but I'm also not in a position, in operations like Megan and Carrie. But I will say that in regards to an individual that I would be looking for to be able to step into a role for this industry is, I would like them to have, for them to be tech savvy, right? Because that is over time things that, for them to come in with that and having some experience, that's less on for me to be able to educate them. And as we know, everybody's wearing a million hats, right? And so those are some of the things where, okay, what can I teach them, right? And what are the things that is going to be very difficult to teach them that, honestly, I don't have the time to do, right? Because I wear a million hats, and we all do in our positions, and especially with COVID last year, and even now, is we've had reductions in workforce, right? So that means more hats of those individuals that are not with us. So I think you kind of have just to weigh out, like, what is teachable easily and what's not, right? I mean, something on, if I'm going to hire somebody, I'd like them to have aviation and business aviation experience, because sometimes that's really hard to teach them all of that and then get them in front of a customer to have a conversation, so I just think it depends on the role, but it also depends on what is going to be something quick that you could, you can be patient and teach them, and what is going to, is going to take a long time because it's difficult. Like, I could tell you the tax stuff that Megan does, timeshares, that definitely over time you would really have to try to understand that. I've been to many tax conferences and I still don't know all of what they talk about, because they get really detailed and they speak, the numbers. So, the the different tax codes and things like that. And that's just not something that I could, that education that for them to understand that is turned around quickly.
Sure.
Just to add on that, I would say if you have somebody that is that has a different background, that doesn't have a business aviation background, I think if that person comes to you with the willingness to learn and to take this on, I think they could potentially be a rock star. If they're excited about aviation, I think that person could totally pick up a job and run with it. So
Yeah,
I
very
think-
true.
I think
Sorry,
that,
Megan, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I think that passion for all the people we've all met in aviation, that's one of those common threads that happens amongst all of us. We all have this passion to know more and do more and make our operation successful. So if you're able to interview someone and you see that fire in them, that they're willing to kind of take on the world, if that's what's asked of them, that will in turn pay dividends to you. So I think from a company standpoint, though, it's really important to offer your employees the ability to gain more education, if that's what it takes, by setting them to, say, the tax conference, which Sue and I have spent many more hours than I think either of us ever anticipated at the beginning of our careers. But the first time I got sent, I'm not going to lie, part of me thought, really, a tax conference? Like, this is what my career has come to. And yet at the same time, it's pivoted into this thing that I love and have embraced and had allowed me to be employed in my current job, which I will love so much. So, afford your employees the ability to apply for scholarships, afford them the time off and or the money to be able to pursue education that they may be lacking in some way. And keep that fire burning, right? That motivation. It's a lot harder to teach someone motivation than it is to teach them a skill set. So if they come to you with motivation and a great attitude, like, foster that and continue to let that grow, because I think that's what's made us all so connected in BizAv, is being able to find other like-minded individuals that have this strong passion for what we do.
Yeah, and actually I'll add to that, right? So the what you had just said, Megan, is having that burning desire and the passion to keep on going and educating yourself and wanting more and learning more. That comes from also finding really good mentors. And I'll tell you what, like, I've been very fortunate in my BizAv career to have mentors from the beginning of when I started in the industry all the way through now. And it's really allowed me to keep on, having that burning desire, to be passionate and I thirst for knowledge, on a daily basis. And it's great to, with this flight operations conference, you see that, you see that even though you're not seeing the faces, but you see that because of all that engagement.
That is a really good and important thing. And sometimes I think people are like, well, where do I find a mentor, right? So if I could just throw in a little plug for the NBAA, they have a mentor-mentee program going on. And I don't recall when you can apply. I believe we talked about this at the OWL call, but there are a ton of great people out there that could be your mentor. And on the other hand, that is a really good way to give back to the community by teaching others or mentoring others. Because I don't know how many schedulers that I've spoken with, but over the years, but I would say like 98% of us came from we didn't think that scheduling and dispatching might be our career. We kind of fell into it. And I think that, so a lot of us are just kind of new to this job when we come in. Anyway, that's where having that burning desire just to learn, like you said, Sue and Megan and Carrie, it's super important.
Yeah, and I'll say that, I would say that the mentoring piece of it too is like, you don't even know that you're a mentor, right? Someone comes to you and asks you, hey, I need help with this. And then they continue to come back to you. And then you're like, wow, like that was, part of the plan, right? But it just happened to be. And I think I have not met anyone in this industry that has basically said, no, I'm not going to help you. Like anything, anywhere, anyone that I talk to that's in this industry, if they will stop and help you, and they will give you their time, and even if it's over, the 9 to 5, right? Or we don't even know what that is, in BizAv, but after hours, we're still talking to those individuals, and they still give their time. So you don't know, you don't actually have to be, labeled a mentor. Just be that person that is willing to help.
Very true, which is exactly what you all are doing today, because really the goal of these podcasts is to try and reach more and more people, and I guess create more of a community in our industry of schedulers and dispatchers. So I appreciate your time very much. And yeah, I think this was a good discussion of what do you need going into our industry in the future? Where can you find the next scheduler? And so, yeah, thank you, all three of you, Carrie, Megan, Sue, for joining me and talking to me about this. And if anybody wants to talk to Sue, Carrie, or Megan, just reach out to me at lindsay@ldaviation.net, and I will get you in contact with them. Again, thank you very much for joining.
Thanks, Lindsay.
And we hope to talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.